Hi, I'm Dr. Mike, and this is NFGeeks. Today is Thursday, and on Thursday, it's Theme Thursday on the NFGeeks discussion forum on Facebook, where I pick a theme to make videos about. I make one myself, and then other people on the forum can make a video about that same topic if they so choose, or just talk about it. And today's theme for this Thursday is going to be art. Okay, art is the theme. And the reason for that is that this really wonderful thing happened on the Facebook discussion forum this week, and somebody posted a brief film of Marina Abramovich, performance artist, and this video was from her work called "The Artist Is Present," where she would sit at a table, okay, and people from the museum would come in and sit across from her, and they would have this moment of silence with each other while they were looking at each other in the eyes. They would sit there and have this moment of silence, and there was this huge line going around, for people to come and sit down. And she would do this for hours, not with the same person, but with this rotation of people, hours and hours and hours of just sitting there and not talking and looking at people. And she did this for about probably, I don't know, like 2 or 3 months, apparently. The video itself was this really beautiful moment when her former lover and partner in performance art, Ulay, came to do this. Now, what makes this important is that the two of them did this whole silence thing, sitting at the table, where they would stare at each other for hours and hours and hours in silence. And so this was sort of a performance art that the two of them had created together, and then they broke up. They broke up, and she's sort of been doing it by herself. And then he came to sit with her and to do it again, many years later, decades later, to sit with her. And then there they were, the two of them sitting across from each other, having a moment of silence in a performance art that they had invented when they were actually lovers. And now they weren't lovers, but they were sort of reminiscing. It's very, very beautiful, this whole thing. It's pretty mind-blowing. I watched it about 1,000 times. I could not stop watching it. Because for many reasons. One, there was the, obviously the relationship aspect of it, of her crying, and him having this emotional moment in this silence, really feeling it. There was the performance art of them being lovers, former lovers, and doing it. And then there was the whole side of it in terms of performance art and the relationship, where they had invented this, they had once done this, and now their sort of emotional moment was a performance art too, in this moment, in the future, from the past. So it was really this amazing, amazing moment, and I've been obsessed with it. I think Marina Abramovich and me, I think we should date. I think her and I, so I sent her an email, for coffee. Let's have some coffee. I'm sure she'll respond. She'll watch NFGeeks and go, "Oh my God, all those wasted years with Ulay. Why didn't I know?" And so, I'm sure it'll all go down. So that really inspired me to make this video and to have today's theme be art, because of that. Because I think there's a lot of things about this, about art, that crisscross through the various types and temperaments to think about. So it seems to be a worthy topic, right? And one of the reasons why this is important to me too is that I've always had an artistic bent myself. It comes from, I've tried to explain it to people. It's being able to see it. It could be an extroverted intuition thing, but when I create something, I can literally visually see it in my mind, and that's how I'm able to build it or think about it or create it. In my imagination, I can literally see it. When I was a boy, I wanted my own Starfleet, but you can never buy enough toys to make up your own Starfleet. You know what I mean? Even if you for Christmas you only got like 5 or 10. So, like a toy die-cast metal Star Destroyer, or a toy, Enterprise from Star Trek or something, Legos. There was stuff, but it didn't reach the size that I wanted. I wanted a whole massive fleet, So I built my own fleet out of paper and shoe boxes, paper towel rolls, toilet paper rolls. I'd cover everything with white paper, so it would look like NASA white, and put windows, and I had ancient, languages of the planets that they came from, and I would write their languages on the thing. So I had this whole fleet going that I just concocted out of things around the house. When I was with the doctor, the doctor in the pantheon of ex-girlfriends that I have. I used to make stuff for her kids. She had a 12-year-old son, and then I had two. There were two little girls, like 8 and 6 years old, and I would make costumes for them for Halloween and various other things, and it was very, elaborate things with poster board and felt and a glue gun. I would make all these amazing things, and the doctor would be like, Mike, you don't have to put that much effort into it, and my gosh, and it doesn't have to be perfect or whatever. And I would raise my finger and I'd go, art, art, like that. And then the two little girls would do the same. They would then look at their mother and go, art, Mom, art. And the best part is that they started doing it by themselves. The older one was like 8, and she'd be drawing something in crayons and really being serious about it and doing that. And then, the doctor would say the same thing. You don't have to do that, and, it doesn't have to be that hard, and you really need all those crayons and all this. And she would put up her finger and she'd go, art, Mom, art, like that. And that always touched me. And, now, on the side, is the next guy in the doctor's life going to build all those things for the kids and do all that kind of art stuff and make them happy? Probably not. Just saying. Just saying. Okay. Just saying. So I've always had a thing about this. It's interesting as being an NF, experiencing art, because I think we see something that's beyond just the basic art itself, the materials or whatever's going on in it. And I really got this impression when the last time I was in the Museum of Modern Art. No, not the Museum of Modern Art. What was it? No, the Metropolitan Museum of Art. That's where it was. And I was sort of following this couple around, okay? I mean, not literally following them. They were sort of one art piece ahead of me as we were looking at the art pieces. And we were in the ancient Greek section of the Metropolitan Museum. I like antiquity in terms of history. It's my favorite time in history. So when I go to museums like this, I always look at like the ancient Greeks, the ancient Egyptians, the Romans, ancient China. I always look at that stuff first. Yeah, I get to Romanticism and the modern art and all that eventually. But I always start with the ancient stuff. So I'm in the ancient Greek part, and I'm following these people around. And the experience I had is that I understood something about the art right away that they could not see, okay? And that's not that they were stupid or anything. It's not like that. Their frame didn't allow them. So the first thing was there was this sort of, I don't want to say kind of a shelf, but kind of a big case of very little figurines, okay? All these like little figurines of various things. And, it had the little card, this is the Zeus, this is, whatever. And they were sort of talking about, wow, look at the religious symbolism and worship and how serious this was, and blah, blah, blah. They're sort of getting into the religious aspect of it, and the seriousness of it, and worshiping idols, and, all that kind of thing. And so, taking it very seriously. And then they went on to the next thing, and I looked at it, and as soon as I looked at it, I realized what it was. I looked at it and went, these are knickknacks. These are the things they're worshiping. They're not bowing down to these things. This is stupid cheap shit you put on your shelf. That's all this is. This is nothing like that. I mean, I think it was very close, very important to them. We all have knickknacks that mean something to us, but it wasn't like that religious, okay, even though it was representing religious things. For example, I have a Pieta on my shelf in the real library. You think this is big. In the real library. And because it's something my mother had, because we grew up Roman Catholic, and so a Pieta is when Mary is holding the dead body of Jesus, okay? It's Catholicism, very sort of morbid and macabre and gruesome. No, but it's Mary. It's just Pieta is Mary holding Jesus, and she had one sort of in this plastic, and it's about this big, and she just had it on her desk. That's it. She didn't worship it. She didn't do anything. It was just this little knickknack of the Pieta. So that's what I think these things were. These things were knickknacks. And I'm pretty sure about that. As soon as I saw them, I understood the connection between humans and whatever. The next one's even more interesting. They went to the next one they were at was these two pieces, these two pots. One was the pot, like when you think Greek pot, a Greek pot, you know what I mean, with the carvings of, guys naked, holding spears and, on a chariot or whatever, that goes around the pot. There was that, and then the next one was a pot that was kind of, it was all sort of scratched whatever it was on it was sort of coming off a little bit, and it's not in too good a shape. And the card indicated that these two things were found at the same dig site at the same levels. Okay, and the people were speculating why this difference, and so they went into this whole thing about the rocks and the sand eroding the paint off the other vase or whatever, and things like that, and different where different levels of rocks can be found. They went into this whole scientific thing about it because again, I can hear them. So they left, and I looked at these two pots, and I said to myself, okay, that's the good china pot that you take out when the guests are over, and that's the shitty one that you use, to microwave or whatever. Obviously one, that was immediately the real thing. Like, I know it was the real thing going on, because of people and knowing people and whatever. So that was an interesting, experience working with the art. Speaking of the Metropolitan Museum, I'm going to give you a little help. If you see a giant painting that looks like a vagina, okay, giant, anywhere in the museum, you see a giant painting of a vagina, that's Georgia O'Keeffe. Okay, that's that's Georgia O'Keeffe, and you can say that with people. And so if you're walking and you see this huge painting, 50 feet away, and people are like, well, who did that? You just say Georgia O'Keeffe. Don't worry, when you get up to the card, it's going to say Georgia O'Keeffe. All right, because there's a few of those in there. One of the things, I know that's funny. One of the other things that that came up though is that really the king of the art world, the temperament king, are SPs. You go into any art museum, and this is really true of ancient art, you can see SP craftsmanship at work. Really fine craftsmanship of tools and materials, in a precise way, especially when you get to the ancient stuff, because you're dealing with, a time where it's very hard to get materials. It's very hard to train artisans, okay? You don't have pictures to go off of, all right, to make things. You sort of have to know how to do this. And yet this very lifelike art is created, all right, this very, very lifelike art. And also the fact that they can reproduce it. Today, those, a lot of the vases look very similar to each other, and some artists had that, made a bunch of vases. Today it would all be done industrial, with plastic and, whatever, some sort of means of production. But really it was just, one guy or a few people, making these vases, the same and doing that. So even the fact that they could mass produce it on ancient Greek level, it's a really amazing craftsmanship, if you think about it. In light of the time and the tools and the materials that they had, very, very hard. That's true, although of any time period of art. I mean, you get that when you go to the modern art, the art from the Enlightenment, Renaissance art. You can see the intense craftsmanship at any time period. So when you go to a museum, a lot of people, because I say this because a lot of people think that museum is all NF, and that's not necessarily the case. Some of it is NF, some very serious stuff is NF and comes out of NF consciousness, but really museums are SP museums, because the craftsmanship is absolutely incredible at any point. Okay, and one of the really the most serious art is like Islamic art, like Persian art, where the calligraphy, this incredibly complex calligraphy, that's sort of this perfect symmetrical shapes. Okay, that's SPs. That's gotta be SPs. I mean, it's so perfectly made and very, very refined, and very, very detailed. That's when you start seeing really specific detail that requires a real manipulation of tools and materials. That's SPs. Those are SPs, and it's really amazing when you get into the ancient stuff. That's ancient SPs, creating that art. And that's really kind of cool to think about it. So, um, I think that art is important because it's something that separates us from the animals. I think more than anything else. People always say it's science, technology. I don't think that it is. You know, I mean, if you think of technology as being tools to do something, I mean, there's all sorts of things in the animal world. Even seagulls. We have a lot of seagulls in New England, and they'll catch like various clams and mollusks, and other sort of shell creatures, and fly and kind of throw them or drop them on concrete to break them open so they can eat it. In that sense, the concrete is their technology. Look at beavers. Okay, beavers build dams. That not only shows technology, it shows design. It shows an understanding of the river. On some level, seasons. You know, that's so it's technology and building. That's not what separates us, but art does. Okay, art separates us from the animals far more. Find me an animal that's doing art. Where are they? Abstract art. If there's any animal that does art, or any two animals, it's probably dolphins and whales. I'm sure that there's whales who, NF whales who do sad poems. So, some kind of sad poem. Sad dolphin poems. If there's going to be any kind of poetry or art, it's going to be whales and dolphins. But the rest of the animal world, I'm not seeing it. So that makes art pretty unique. You know, because a lot of people in anthropology or whatever, it says it's humanity's ability to see a future that is what and then their own mortality that makes us human and separate from animals. But I think it's art. When you start seeing in the cave paintings art, the animals and things like that, that's when you start having Homo sapiens, really serious Homo sapiens. So I think it's art that does that. On an aside, and this brings us back to Marina, allegedly in the caves, they did sort of a measurement. There's handprints on the walls, and they did a measurement of the hands and, compared that to various skeletons they have. This is anthropology. And it looks like the cave paintings were painted by women. Okay, that women painted those things because it's sort of the size of a woman's hand and, whatever. They've sort of figured that out. And I think that's very interesting. That means that women might be the creators of art. How about that? Okay, ponder that today. It's not Picasso. It's women. Lastly, one of the questions that kind of got batted around about Marina and her former lover Ulai is, what were their types? What would their types be? And I think Ulai is an INFJ. Okay. All right, first of all, wait, before we get to that, I don't think they're SPs for this. I don't think their type of performance art is SPs because there's not a lot of physical skill involved, refining of the body in terms of skills and ability to have skill with the body. It's much more expressive. It's much more NF symbolic stuff. Okay, that on some level only they understood. There's one video of them sitting across from each other. I think they're naked, and they're sitting. A lot of nudity with these two. They're sitting across from each other naked, and they're slapping each other in the face back and forth. Psh, 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 psh. One slaps and the other one slaps and the other one slaps. And that's sort of a very symbolic thing. It's very symbolic for them that, I don't know, pushing the boundaries of bodies and sexuality and things like that. So that seems very NF to me. Okay, all of it seems very NF. So I think he's an INFJ because he just looks like an INFJ. I know that's crazy, but he does. As soon as I saw him, I said, this guy's an INFJ. All right. How could he be anything but an INFJ? The way, just his mannerisms and his appearance. Marina, I think, is, the question is she an INFJ or INFP? A lot of people lean towards INFP, and I have to say I do too. I lean towards INFP with her. I think her reactions to people sitting across from her seem to be very INFP reactions, you know, the crying and things like that. She sort of has that INFP dignity to her, you know. I can see that, you know. And I mean, in light of some of the art, you know, there's art of her like carving pentagrams into herself with a knife, like for real. You know, she's kind of a masochist, and that seems very INFP. Yeah, that's right. I just said that. Yeah, go ahead, argue that that's not true. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Send me the email. It's fine. That's fine. Okay, we both know what the story is on that. So, all right, so that's it for Marina, and go check it out. Check out the video. I'll try to see if I'll try to put the link with this video. But if not, just Google Marina Abramovich, the artist is present, and you'll see it. You know, and you know, come to think of it, I don't know. NFGeeks is kind of performance art in a way. You know, in a very loose, ridiculous way. But it kind of is. You know, this is sort of a performance. Very much a performance, you know, because this isn't, I mean, it's me, but it's not me. You know, it's something that I've been really struggling with here at NFGeeks. And I think maybe Marina has been struggling with it too as an artist. But, you know, you know, one of the issues I've had is, you know, people sort of sending me emails, and I'm not saying don't talk to me, I want to talk to everybody, but people sort of reacting to the video because that's what you know, and that's what you see of me, and it's true, but there's this whole other me going on in the world that's not this video. And so even I have this weird thing going on where I'm NFGeeks, but I'm also Mike. And Mike and NFGeeks aren't always the same person. Okay? You know, like sometimes I speak through NFGeeks. I speak as NFGeeks through NFGeeks, and that's because that's who I am. But then sometimes I'm speaking as Mike. And I find that when I speak as Mike on the forum, people can't handle it. Okay, I can't. I have to keep that voice away. I can only speak as NFGeeks through the forum, and most of the time I realize that, but sometimes I forget that, and so that's an important thing that goes on. I think that has to do with performance art, in a way, because you know regular art that makes it sound bland. Art that's visual, you know, a visual medium of some kind, like sculpture or paintings or whatever. I think that can happen, but you know, once you create the art, it's totally separate from you. You know, if you could die and no one can know your name, but the statue will endure. But performance art, it's always you, and it's always, excuse me, it's always connected to you. You know, I mean, this whole thing about carving your, you know, abdomen with a knife is always going to be Marina. You know, she's always going to be connected to that. So I'm always going to be connected to NFGeeks. And I'm always going to sort of be NFGeeks, but at the same time not be NFGeeks. And then at the same time with that, be forced to be NFGeeks. And that's really the point, you know, of all this, that there are times where I have to be NFGeeks, even when I don't want to be NFGeeks. I have to sort of be this persona that I've invented accidentally. You know, I think that's the main difference between me and Marina. I didn't invent my NFGeeks persona on purpose. It just sort of evolved, and now here it is, and now I have to deal with it. But I didn't do it on purpose for performance art. She sort of, you know, created it, you know, first, and then, you know, went to her art, you know, did her art through that, you know. So it's something that's you know, that's stuff for me to think about in terms of, you know, the artist and being the artist. And again, I'm using that loosely. Okay, very loosely. But being someone who is creating this work that they are personally also involved in, and that where their identity and the identity of the work are mixed up and enmeshed into one thing. Okay? Because look, right now you're watching this and you're like, no, I'm listening to Mike. That's Mike. He's talking. People who know me in the personal world, you know, personally who watch NFGeeks, they're looking at me. Look, there's Mike. He's got one of those damn jackets on again. You know, blah, blah, blah. You know, right? It's me. But it's also, you know, it's also not me, because there's a certain way everyone reacts to the videos and to me personally online that is not representative of my real world. And therefore, this becomes a performance. And NFGeeks becomes a performance. Whether it's an interview or whether it's like this, you know. So you see, this whole thing with my new girlfriend, Marina, is really, you know, really made a big difference on me. It's brought out a lot, you know. One thing, before I end, that I remembered that she said, and I'm going to get it wrong because I haven't had coffee yet and I'm bumbling this morning, is I'm going to try to get it right. She said that the artist doesn't need to have self-control over their lives. The artist needs to have self-control over their art. Okay? And that really struck me because that I realized that, okay, that's exactly how I need to operate with NFGeeks. Okay, I have to see NFGeeks in that same light. If NFGeeks is going to like exist on any other level, you know, whatever level that is, I need to see it in that light. So that was very inspiring to hear her say that, you know, and it's all from this point where the artist has to be fully committed to the art, you know, in a way that you can't be committed in any other way. So I think there's something, you know, there's something to that. That's inspired me, you know, for my art. You know, this is my art. Again, loosely. I mean, I know it's ridiculous. It's NFGeeks, but still, it's the thing I'm creating, and it's a performance. Here I am. I'm involved in my own art. So, you know, there's something there. All right, so that's it. That's my sort of spiel about art. And I know that there's lots of artists on the NFGeeks forum, for sure. So in various, both SP and NF in very other ways. So certainly I would encourage you to make a video because there's actual artists, people who create actual art, as opposed to, you know, this silliness. So I certainly encourage you to make a video and talk about your own art. And if you have art, like, you know, something around you, paintings, statues, something you've created, show us in the video. Okay, don't just talk about your art. Let's see it. Okay, you know, you don't have to show us 10 things. Just show us one thing or two things. But show some of your art and talk about how you feel about art. Where are you in your art? You know, what do you think art is? You know, what is it? I'm sure that you all have a ton of opinions on this issue. So, and I would love to hear them. Okay, so that's it. That's great. See you on the forum, and go and make some art. You know, remember, everybody, this is what I want you to say. When you're making your art, especially if your parents are giving you crap about it, okay, you turn to them and you go, art, art, like that, and finger has to go up. Okay, so art. That's what you say. Not just your parents. Anybody giving you crap about your art. Art, like that, you know, and finger, and look up at them if you're sitting down. Art, okay. So go for it. Go do it. Okay? All right. Thanks for watching.